Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition, coming to you live from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda, Accra. I am Martin Asiedu-Darteh. Coming up this evening, Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo fails in her attempt to halt impeachment proceedings against her as Supreme Court unanimously dismisses her injunction application. We have detailed account of the court proceedings plus legal arguments in a jiffy.
How can it be correct that a judge who sat on two matters of which he also sat be called as witness in a petition against her, and that same judge be made the chairman of the committee that is supposed to inquire into the petitions against the Chief Justice?
We'll bring you reactions from the court's decision earlier today. Also in the bulletin, Ashanti Regional New Patriotic Party Chairman Bernard Anwti Boasiako, known popularly as Chairman Wontumi, has been granted bail after his arrest by the Office of the Economic and Organized Crime. We'll have details of that, and later, a proposed legal education bill to break the Ghana School of Law's long-standing monopoly over professional legal training in the country. Tonight, we ask, what will be implications for quality legal education? We'll be engaging some legal brains on this. This is 3FM 92.7 Hot Edition is the program. I am Martin Asiedu-Darteh. Joining me now is Christabel Success Trevor to give us news summaries. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Martin. In tonight's summaries, the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo has suffered yet another defeat in her attempt to halt the proceedings by the 5-member committee set up to probe the 3 petitions seeking her removal. On Wednesday, May 28th, the Supreme Court unanimously dismissed her injunction application against the committee. This ruling was delivered a few hours after her supplementary affidavit was also struck out unanimously by the courts. The Supreme Court has struck out the supplementary affidavit filed by the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. Minister for Energy and Green Transition John Jinapor has directed the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, to deploy 200 new transformers across major urban centers to enhance power distribution and address recent supply challenges. The move follows weeks of intermittent power outages and aims to strengthen infrastructure, to meet growing industrial and residential demand. Despite recent concerns over load shedding, the minister assured that Ghana's overall power supply remains stable, with the countries continuing to export electricity to neighboring states. Just before I go, 4 persons have sustained injuries following a violent confrontation between traders and members of the Ususenya East Municipal Assembly's task force during a decongestion exercise in the Kaswa Central Business District on Wednesday, May 28th. The clash erupted on the 3rd day of the Assembly's decongestion operation, which aims to clear pedestrian walkways of unauthorized structures. Now, while the first 2 days of the exercise proceeded without incidents, tensions escalated when members of the Kaswa Phone Dealers Association resisted the removal of tents they had erected on walkways. Martin, that's the end of the summary.
Thank you very much, Krista, for that update of the news summary. So let's dig into the specific details now, and you can also be a part of the show. Let's hear your thoughts on the many stories we have for you tonight. The big one is what happened in court today. So you would know that the Chief Justice has been trying to fight for her position as the Chief Justice of the Republic. There is a current issue in court against her, and that is what the latest detail we have that we are bringing to you. Now, the Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo will have to submit herself to the proceedings of the Presidential Committee probing petitions for her removal. This follows a failed attempt by her to injunct the committee from carrying out its duties. In a unanimous decision earlier today, a 5-member panel of the Supreme Court dismissed an application for an interlocutory injunction filed by Justice Torkornoo seeking to suspend her impeachment process. The court, presided over by Acting Chief Justice Paul Bafoboni, ruled that the application lacked merit and could not be granted. Justice Torkornoo had sought to temporarily halt her suspension and the impeachment proceedings pending the final determination of her lawsuit, which challenges the constitutionality of the process. Well, Dennis Poaberi Wedam Esquire was in court himself and followed proceedings very keenly. He's joined us in studio to get an understanding of what exactly transpired in court today. Dennis, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Martin.
First of all, paint a picture for those of us who were not in court. What was the atmosphere? What was the mood like in court when the Chief Justice came in?
Well, I would say that it's a typical court day, except that observations were quite different. Rules had changed because on an ordinary day, as it used to be, you'd either find the Chief Justice coming from the back to join the bench, and because she was the Chief Justice, she usually would be the president or presiding over the panel that are put together to preside over matters. But today was quite different for the first time. I mean, personally seeing her coming through where you and I would also pass when we are going into the courts. She walked into the courts, went to assume a seat behind the bar. So when you enter the court, there's the bench where the judges sit, and there's a bar where the lawyer sits. Behind the bar is a place where parties, so if you were my party, you would sit behind. And so she was at that part of the Supreme Court. That's to say that, okay, I'm in here as, excuse my word, but an ordinary person. I have my case before you. So, I mean, that's how it looked like. On the side of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Remsai was there for the Attorney General's department, together with some state attorneys. On the side of the Chief Justice's lawyers, the plaintiff applicant, led by former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dami, and also with him, he was there with the legal counsel for former President President Akufo-Addo, EOCO. Esuman was also there. Also behind them, we had Vincent Asafo, who were also there to support. So painting a picture, that's how it looked like. On the panel today, if you recall, the last injunction application was heard by a panel of 5, which included the acting Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafuboni. You had Justice Amadou Tanko. You had Justice Yoni Kolondi. There was Justice Anthony Kofi, and then Justice Yao Asari-Darteh. Today, it was almost a repeat panel, except that Justice Yao Asari-Darteh has been changed, and now we had Justice Richard Ejie Frimpong, who replaced. So that was the panel for today's hearing. What it essentially means is that only one person has been changed from that panel that had the previous injunction applications. I mean, the most immediate, the 2 that were dismissed on 4-1, on the voting of decision for 4-1. So that's how the composition, the atmosphere, and representation looked like in court. But before things could even get started, because from the processes that were filed, I mean, the expectation was that the first thing that would be done today was to hear the preliminary legal objection that was raised by the Attorney General, asking the court to strike out the supplementary affidavit that was filed by the Chief Justice. Now, that supplementary affidavit, I mean, it's been widely reported out there. It is in that document that was contained the allegations of torture, allegations of search, allegations of
denial of carrying mobile
laptop and all that. So the Attorney General's preliminary objection or legal objection was to the effect that these were matters that occurred before the committee. So to that extent, they are supposed to be protected under Article 1468. Now, Article 1468 of the 1992 Constitution talks about the fact that proceedings for the removal of a Chief Justice or a Justice of the Superior Court must be in camera. That has received judicial blessing in a number of cases. So the argument was simple, that do not allow this to come on record, else you'll be exposing what is supposed to be in camera. So that was supposed to be the first thing. However, before that could even be heard, there was, I mean, an objection by the Attorney General. That was not on the record. It was just made in the spur of the moment, if I may put it that way.
Okay.
And that objection was to the effect that from second to sixth, the respondents. Now, when you look at the nature of the suit, it was the Chief Justice as the plaintiff or applicant against Attorney General, and then the individual members of the committee. So in all, there were 6 respondents or defendants, depending on which one you're talking about. The Attorney General's argument was that from the members of the committee should not have been parties to the suit. And the reason was simple, that when he looks at the writ of summons, and then the pleadings that were made, he made reference to a specific paragraph in which the Chief Justice had mentioned, or in that document which was filed for the Chief Justice, said that the person who will be affected will be the Attorney General. That is just the first respondent. And he says to that, to the extent that it was the only person that would be affected, it meant that the other 5 people are not proper parties. So the court should take them out so that it will just be the Chief Justice against the Attorney General. The former Attorney General, who is lawyer for the Chief Justice, argued that no, that cannot be the position of the law, and that the fact that that person, the other persons were not mentioned as being affected was inadvertent. And that even beyond that, the law is that it's not just about the person being named, but that's even where claims have been made against certain individuals or reliefs have been sought against certain individuals, they ought to be parties in the suit. So he pointed out that there are as many as 6 reliefs that have been sought against the members of the committee. So to that extent, they ought to be proper parties in the suit. The ruling of the court was very simple, that yes, they agree with the former Attorney General, Godfred Yabo-Adami, that indeed, since claims have been made against the members of the committee, they need to be proper parties in the suit. We crossed that hurdle. Okay. The next was when the Attorney General, when I say Attorney General, I mean the Attorney General's department. Okay. It was represented in court by the Deputy Attorney General.
Justice
Rimsai. Now began to move the motion for that matter I discussed with you about the exclusion of the supplementary affidavit. That was successful because the court agreed with him that indeed the matters that were deposed to in that affidavit were actually matters that happened before the committee, and as such, they need not be put out in the public. The former Attorney General, Godfred Yabo-Adami, argued that no, in his view, what amounts to proceedings is different from what was deposed to in that affidavit. So he tried to distinguish what is proceedings and the things that they were complaining of as not being part of proceedings, but that did not find favor with the court. So that's one succeeded because it was coming from the Attorney General. So that succeeded. We crossed that hurdle, and now moving to the substantive injunction. Okay. Business for today was the injunction, but a lot of things had to be done before. But even before that one, former Attorney General raises another legal objection, and that was to the effect that why is the Attorney General representing the members of the committee? Because in his view, the Attorney General is supposed to be the lawyer for government agencies and the like. But so these persons, his view was that they were sued in their personal capacity. Individual capacities. Why would Attorney General represent them? So, at that point, the bench had to intervene to ask him a few questions. That's for the 2 justices, for instance. They were doing their business. President nominates them to come and be part of a committee, and in their work, they are sued. They ask, who does he expect to go and represent them? Because it is not part of it's not their doing that they found themselves there. So they tried to explain that they were performing a public function. So indeed, Godfred Yabo-Adami agreed that indeed it's a public function, but he was still persistent to push that point. I think they reached a consensus when the bench had asked him that he should just rest his legal objection and go ahead to prosecute his case. That is now to take on the argument for the interlocutory injunction. Okay. So that was where we then delve into the proper matter of the interlocutory injunction.
Okay. Maybe before we go into the specifics of that, we just want our listeners to know that they can actually watch us also on our Facebook page. So you look for the 3FM Facebook page, and the bulletin is live there as well. And in the next few minutes also, we'll be picking the thoughts of the former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Asare, who has also been following this entire episode about the Chief Justice very closely, right from the very day the story started or unfolded. So we'll get his thoughts on it. But Dennis.
Yes, now to the substantive matter, yes, which was the interlocutory injunction application.
We have the thoughts of Godfred Dame, who is lawyer for the Chief Justice. We'll play that, which is a reaction to how things, or his thoughts on how the court decision went. So we'll come to that subsequently. You tell us how things proceeded when it came to the substantive issue.
Well, so he started off by setting out the issues that he wanted to argue before the court. The key one being the fact that there's actually a serious matter to be tried. That is actually a requirement if you want an injunction application to be granted. And that is from the point where he makes the case that as they speak, the Chief Justice has not still been given a copy of the determination of the prima facie case that has been made against her, for which a committee was set up, and then the suspension and all the proceedings ongoing. And he thinks that for a Chief Justice to be subjected to that kind of process without the benefit of having a copy, it undermines her fundamental human rights, which are enshrined in the Constitution. So basically, he advanced that argument that in the absence of that, what it essentially means is that the process is not right, for which an injunction must lie. He argues that this is not just a mere procedural requirement, as has been argued by the Attorney General, but that it's a constitutional requirement, for which the breach of it's a serious thing. He also went on to argue the basis why Justice Poamang and then Justice Asiedu should not be part of the committee. He argues that because Justice Poamang had, in other cases, giving judgments that went in the favor of one of the petitioners, Daniel Ofori, he should not be part of it. It was that point that the bench intervened again to say that they, as justices, they sit on all manner of cases. Is he making the argument that if they sat on a certain case and then there's a petition and they are nominated to be on a committee, they should not be a part of it? So even the president, Justice Paul Bafuboni, said that that case in question, he was a part of it. Justice Yoni Kolendi was part of it. So is he saying that on the bench, they too don't qualify? Then Attorney General said, yes, in the circumstances, they don't qualify to be on that committee from where he's coming from.
Primarily because in the past, they've sat on a case that one of the petitioners brought before them.
Yes, but you see, the substantive argument of Godfrey Yabo Adami was that it's not just about sitting on a case, but that's one of the cases, it's actually the reason for part of the things that were brought before the president in the petitions. Yes, it's actually a judgment which is a reason for the petition. So that's why he was seeking that, because Justice Poamang was a part of it and he gave a favorable judgment to the petitioner, he should not be on it. In the case of Justice Asiedu, the argument has been the same. I mean, we've been here before. And it was the same Godfrey Yabo Adami who made that argument, but it did not lie. I think he came on very forcefully again. That's, the initial panel that was put together to hear the very first case of Vincent Asafua. Justice Asiedu was part of it. Before it could be heard, Justice Asiedu was nominated to be on the committee. But they had not had the opportunity of hearing them because they had adjourned the case twice. So his argument is that because he had been on that committee, that panel from the right go, he should not have been part of the committee. They explained to him that this is a matter that we have decided on already. And the facts will bear them out. That he was even there at the first time. They came, there was no sitting. The second time, there was no sitting. And the panel was reconstituted. So that, again, did not lie. So, the crux of the matter is that the arguments that the Attorney General made, yes, as forceful as they were, eventually, even though the court has not given it reasoning, it did not go his way. On the side of the Attorney General, so I meant the former Attorney General. Now, on the side of the Attorney General, his case was very simple. He started off by saying that the court has already given judgments in similar cases. At least this is the fifth one. So in 4 instances, the court has given judgments and it did not go that way, or the grant of an interlocutory injunction has not been. He also argues that even in the court's own ruling, a judgment of which we have a copy, he read portions of it to see where the court has specified instances where they can give injunctions and instances when they cannot. And they made it clear that when it has to do with these public interest matters, it will be very difficult. Justice Tanko intervened to make an explanation that if they are not careful, if they don't take a serious view of these interlocutory injunctions, they'll be there one day, and on the night before election, somebody can bring an injunction to injunct the election. Or on the night before the swearing in of the president, somebody will bring an injunction. And that was why they made a distinction as to how public interest injunctions should be granted and how private interest injunctions should be granted. On the totality of it, they listened to both counsel argue together with their all the documents that they filed. They went back into chambers, returned with a verdict, and it was a 5-0 decision in favor of the Attorney General. That means that the application for an interlocutory injunction has been dismissed. It is also instructive to add that even while counsel were making their arguments, the court was cautioning them not to go into a substantive matter because, an interlocutory injunction is just an interim application. There's usually a substantive matter to be decided. So the court said, no, you hold your horses. When we get there, we'll look into those matters. But as it stands now, this is the 5th interlocutory injunction that has been refused by the court. I mean, one of them was struck out for want of prosecution because the person never showed up. But for all the 4 that have been prosecuted, one was 3-2 dismissed, there was 4-1 dismissed, 4-1 dismissed, and now this is 5-0 dismissed.
Great. What options are available to Madam Justice Torkornoo, which means that do we know when now the committee set up by the president can sit?
Well, the committee has never been restrained to sit. The committee has always been sitting. And in fact, it's part of the reasons that she has brought this particular application to suspend. So if she has succeeded, it means that the committee would have suspended. Okay. In fact, in that supplementary affidavit that has been excluded or struck out, she made depositions to the fact that she appeared before the committee to bring to the attention of the committee that there was a pending matter in court, that the committee adjourned, and the following day they started sitting again. And that was when she complained about his searches and all that. So that is to establish the fact that the committee has already been sitting. Okay. The announcement we have is that they are sitting thrice a week. So if nothing has changed, the assumption is that they are still sitting thrice a week. We are unaware of anything that has come to order them to stop or that has impeded their work. Okay. So the assumption is that work is still ongoing. And
as far as we know, Madam Torkornoo is expected to appear before them when they require her
precisely
presence.
So. Unfortunately, the committee does not tell the public, or that announcement does not tell the public when they sit, except to say they sit thrice a week. So you can't tell whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday. Yes.
Okay.
So
that's where we are at the moment.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dennis Puaberi Wedam Esquire, who interestingly was in court today to hear the specifics of the arguments for and against what was going on. And as you have heard, the judges have come up with a 5-0 decision, which was to dismiss the application of the suspended Chief Justice. So we will wait to see what the next few days hold, and also subsequently keep you in the time of when this committee set up by the president is expected to conclude their work and bring their findings. Meanwhile, right after the development, the court proceedings, the lawyer for the Chief Justice, in the person of Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who himself was a former Attorney General, has been speaking. He spoke to the media, or addressed the media moments after the court's decision. Let's listen to what he's been saying.
As a former Attorney General, to ask your opinion as a lawyer for Madam Torkornoo, what would you say to that?
Due process, rule of law, constitutionalism must prevail in Ghana. That is what we see. We do not, on account of people putting pressure on the CJ to resign or whether that will take a decision. The most important thing is that there must be an upholding of the rule of law in Ghana. And we will continue to assert our rights.
So she will
the proper thing must be done. As far as I'm concerned, the proper thing must be done. And since the Chief Justice, she's been in office, she's been a judicial office holder for more than 25 years or so. She's been at the bar for almost 40 years. She knows what is due process. She knows what is constitutional rights. And I think that's what she's asking for. And how can it be correct that a judge who sat on 2 matters, of which she also sat, be called as witness in a petition against her, and that same judge be made the chairman of the committee that is supposed to inquire into the petitions against the Chief Justice? Clearly, it's untenable. It's only in this country that I don't know. And the question is, what account can she be singled out for removal from office when indeed she did not sit even alone? She sat as part of the panel. One of the judges' father is being made a witness. That's all. That's my recommendation.
And you heard the voice of Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who is the former Attorney General and currently representing Madam Justice Isabella Torkornoo, the Chief Justice, who has currently been suspended. And it means that the 5-member committee, or the committee set up by the president to look into the prima facie case that has been established against the Chief Justice, can continue their sitting. And like we indicated, we will bring you updates when we do get them. We'll try and get the thoughts of a private legal practitioner who has actually shared a strong thought on the decision of Madam Gertrude Torkornoo to take on the state, or at least fight her way through this particular issue. When we are able to connect with our guest or our resource person, we'll put that conversation out for you to also follow the proceedings. But at least you have heard how all of this has started. We would want to hear from you. If you can just go onto our Facebook page, you'll be able to share your thoughts as this particular bulletin is live. We are streaming there, so do let us know what you make of this particular development. And maybe you also have a thought or two on the back and forth regarding the Chief Justice, her suspension, and the fact that she's trying to fight her way through the decisions of the court. So let's now engage the former director of the Ghana School of Law, Mr. Kweku Ansasari. Mr. Ansasari, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening.
I'm sure you followed today's proceeding as well, and you earlier spoke to us and gave a position, which was that you said the Chief Justice was shooting herself in the foot by deciding to take the legal action in this matter. What are your thoughts following the fact that they have now dismissed her application and in a 5-0 decision?
Well, it just vindicates me. I think that those advising the Honorable Lord or Lady Chief Justice are not advising her properly. I'm saddened that up to now, I haven't heard any member of the Judicial Council express a worrying concern over, the ongoing affair. That's completely abandoned. She now has to go to court with her husband. So where is the protection? And then secondly, things that she shouldn't do. So all her moves, have not been in the right direction. So strategically, it's been faltering, from one application, to another application. And I think as she herself, has expressed through her lawyer, Godfrey Dami, this whole saga must come to an end. There are only, two ways, one of two ways. Either they allow the process, to terminate successfully, and then we know the verdict, or they appeal to the president to lift the suspension. As far as halting the process is concerned, I doubt very much whether once the president has set it in motion, he can reverse it. But he may decide, to lift the suspension. But if the suspension is lifted, that does not mean that the committee's work is terminated. So it is up to them to decide to, they have been put, or they put themselves in the election. My advice is that they should allow the process, to come to a successful end, in order for a verdict to be known.
That's an interesting point you raise about the fact that maybe the president should consider suspending the suspension or lifting the suspension. That would give her full access again as the Chief Justice, wouldn't it? And could she not, which probably was the reason why the president must have asked that she go on suspension or step aside, could she not, if she is in office, influence, judicial processes in terms of probably empaneling, etc.?
I'm not saying the suspension should be lifted. I'm saying that it is either that she appeals to the president to lift the suspension while the probe continues. Lifting the suspension doesn't mean she can go back to work.
Right.
She can still remain at home and allow she has not been interdicted or that she allows, the process that has been set in motion to come to, a complete end. That's all.
Okay.
It's either one of, the two approaches, not both.
Okay. You also made the point that it's likely that her advisors are not giving her the type of advice that would, put her in the right line. Yeah, but she, from her affidavit that we have.
I mean,
read,
how do you advise the Chief Justice to go to court, the Chief Justice to sue the President? How? And then, at the end of the action, what may she do?
Yeah, but
the
counsel,
one who advised her to take the matter to court hasn't
help her cause.
Done any good at all. She shouldn't have sued.
Okay,
She's the head of the judiciary. And if you look at Article 123.4 or so, it says that the Chief Justice, subject to the Constitution, the Chief Justice, subject to the Constitution, is the head, of the judiciary. He's subject to the Constitution. And if, there's a probe going on, how can the head of the institution of governance responsible, for upholding the rule of law, herself thwart the process that will help in upholding the rule of law? It's an affront to common sense. I mean, I don't buy that.
But there is an argument also.
She should rather be allowed, for the sake of transparency, allow this process to go on. It doesn't mean that at the end of it, the petition will succeed.
Right.
I mean, I find it difficult to read any such meaning into the process.
Yeah, but it could also be, Mr. Asiedu, sorry for cutting in, but...
I can say now is that when I said she has shot herself wrongly in the foot, I meant every word of it. You see, by taking certain courses of action, she has made it now impossible, to return to her job. It's difficult now for her to go back. Even if she wins, if the petition fails, she'll find it difficult to go back to her job.
Mr. Asiedu, sorry for cutting in, but you have a strong position. Maybe it is her advisors. There is also the school of thought based on the affidavit we saw and the injunctions he was seeking. The content of the write-up clearly tells you that this is a woman who believes she's unjustifiably being treated and wants to run the full course or at least take on the system to clear herself. Could that not be her personal decision and maybe her advisors could not convince her otherwise?
I don't want to believe or subscribe to the idea that merely because she's a woman, I don't want the gender,
No. I'm
not
talking about her gender position. I'm talking about the fact that as Chief Justice, she believes that the petitions and everything that is playing out is targeted at her, and because of that, she wants to use the same legal process to fight it. So it is not that her advisors have not been able to convince her not to even try the system, but she is personally taking that decision and going the full throttle.
Well, she's entitled to her opinion. She's entitled to whatever approach, she elects, to pursue this matter. As a pursuer, she alone, and probably the husband may decide, not even Governor, she alone may decide, to reconsider her position. But my advice to her is that being the Chief Justice, with enormous privileges, she should be, going to court as a Chief Justice to test what? Is she testing the rule of law, or she's testing womanhood, or what? You see, when you go to court, like, it was described, in the media this morning, she starts she was, sometimes she'll talk to the husband, and why would she, bring all this bad threat onto herself? That is what, I find a bit worrying. Right. And that is why I'm advising that, she should just allow the process, and then at the end of the day, I mean, she may invite and urge the president to, give a dignified exit.
Right.
That's what I'm praying for, a dignified exit. Okay. She's our Chief Justice. She has not been, removed. It was only a recommendation of the committee the president has set up that in view of the likelihood, of going into the allegations, presence, in the office every now and then may likely interfere with the proceedings. So she must take some rest. That is all. Okay. She has not been accused of anything. Right. There is no verdict, saying that she's, culpable of wrongdoing. Right. She's still the Chief Justice, with respect. Now the committee must, concede that she is the Chief Justice. Absolutely. And accord her all the respect due her. That's all.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure hearing your legal thoughts on these issues. Thank you so much. Kwaku Asasare is the former director of the Ghana School of Law and shared some really interesting positions on this particular development. Do let us know what you also make of it on our Facebook page. We are streaming, so we'll be happy to read your many thoughts, some of which are already coming in. This is 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition. It is live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda, Accra. Our big subject we have just treated has to do with the Supreme Court's decision in a 5-0 final verdict, have dismissed the interlocutory application that was being sought by the suspended Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Torkornoo. And we also brought you the thoughts of her lawyer, Godfrey Dame, who totally said that, well, based on the back of this, people are calling for the Chief Justice to honorably resign. And her lawyer, Godfrey Dame, is saying that it is not by force to ask someone to just resign. And you just also heard the thoughts of former director of the Ghana School of Law, who is in the person of Kwaku Asasare, who says that the decision of the Chief Justice, or probably through her advisors, to even fight this case in court in itself, has brought her into all sorts of lights, some good, others not too pleasant. And so from where he says, he thought that maybe it could be handled in a more professional way rather than what we are all seeing or what is playing before our eyes at the court. So we will be happy to hear from you as well. Let's go on to some other stories now. Another big story that has been playing out in the last 48 to 72 hours, having to do with the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman in the person of Bernard Anwti Boasiako. Many of you know him as Chairman Wontumi. Well, information 3FM is gathering indicate that the embattled Ashanti Regional Chair of the NPP has been granted bail by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. Mr. Wontumi was taken to the hospital for medical treatment after undergoing questioning at EOCO on Tuesday evening amidst supporters crowding the EOCO headquarters, warranting reinforcement of both military and police. Earlier today, the police barricaded the entrance, preventing supporters and sympathizers from accessing the building. This measure was taken in response to the large number of supporters who had gathered to demand Chairman Wontumi's immediate release. Expressing frustration earlier, lawyer for Chairman Wontumi, Andy Apiakubi, said that no officer had been made available to escort Mr. Wontumi back to EOCO from the hospital to continue the investigations. And if you've been following our social media pages as well, you know that this has been one of the big issues that has been trending. Let's listen to Andy Apiakubi's thoughts on what has gone on so far. He confirming that Chairman Wontumi was also taken to the hospital because he fell ill in EOCO custody.
We have come to see our client. we have hope that there will be an officer apparently there's no officer in this office to even receive us, to take us to where our friends is kept. So we are going back to Chippa to take a decision.
Apologies for the poor sound quality there, but yeah, that is Andy Apiakubi, who is the lawyer for Chairman Wontumi, and saying that when he was taken to the hospital, there was no officer to escort him back to the EOCO premises. Meanwhile, political analyst Dr. Jonathan Asiedu-Darteh has called for possible charges against Chairman Wontumi for inciting public disorder and urged politicians to respect the rule of law as the country pushes for a new era of responsible leadership. He spoke earlier on our midday program here on 3FM.
I think that we cannot hide behind our political clothes to assume that somebody is being witch hunted. The president got elected on account of accountability. And if you have a situation where UTAG even joined organized labor to declare strike, and we have a previous government that was so unwilling to prosecute Mr. Wontumi on the score of Galamsey activities, our former president even had cause to suggest that Mr. Wontumi was not doing or was not engaged in Galamsey. That being said, I'm of the view that we cannot in any way put accountability on the sword of political partisanship. Accountability is good for the ordinary Ghanaian in the sense that we stand out to benefit, because some time ago we had political actors who remained untouchable, and a different time has come in which the citizens have spoken that they want proper accountability. Unfortunately, this has been characterized by both ends of the political divide. It is something that they've always encouraged their membership to do, and these are more or less like rented citizens of one particular political divide. I see it as an act of lawlessness, and that I think that even Mr. Wontumi should answer charges of that nature, because that flouts in the face of Public Order Act, and so the police can even charge him for that, especially when they heard him on his radio or TV asking the people to come en masse, because when they do come, definitely they're going to breach the law. You saw what happened. A journalist was attacked. So all of these can lead to certain things. So it creates the impression that the political class are untouchable within the sphere of politics, and that for me does not sit well.
And those are the thoughts of Dr. Jonathan Asiedu-Darteh, who is a political analyst. And he has been sharing his thoughts, which has been countered by Dr. Joshua Jebuntie Zato, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana's Political Science Department. Now, he is accusing government of political vendetta against his political opponents.
One person breaching his own code of conduct, and he's doing with so much impunity. Nobody, not Ghana Integrity Initiative, no anti-corruption has come say, how come somebody has just given you his private jet to be running around for free? That's a scandal that's happening. He talked about it. I'm going to come say, look, what is happening to someone to me is a naked and shambolic attempt to cover up the government's woeful and inefficiency in the Galamsey fight. Naked and shambolic attempt by the government to hide their woeful, pathetic inefficiencies in the Galamsey fight. The Ghana Catholic Bishop Conference was in the Jubilee House. They asked one thing of the president, one thing. Please, Mr. President, we beg you, declare a state of the emergency. The president has not done that. The anti-coalition people, if you talk to anyone, nobody in the anti-Galamsey goal can tell you that we are winning this fight. Absolutely nobody. There are simple, low-hanging fruits you can do. This morning, the president can declare that he will do it. I've heard what the parliament is supposed to do. Nothing in the itinerary given so far says that they are going to expunge or they are going to remove the bill that is mining there. So, all of a sudden, let's go for Wontumi. I don't know Wontumi. I've never met Wontumi. I don't think he knows me. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. The former president came out and said that every single government appointee must stay and face justice. If Wontumi is facing justice, that is his problem. It's not my problem. I'm not sitting here to debate. I'm making a point. If you want to talk about Galamsey, talk about Galamsey. Where is the state of emergency? Where Where is the bill to expunge or remove the lining? Where are they? These are the things that every single person believes will have a meaningful impact. These are the things. Secondly, there are credible reports. Some MPs in Parliament have actually been referred to be investigated for galamsey. Is that not so? Those MPs, what is happening to them? The point I'm making is that please don't hide around galamsey to now say this. No. The arrest of Wontumi and harassment is just you acknowledging that no, you are trying to throw a big fish so that we can be dealing with it. And once we are doing that, actually, the chairman of the coalition, CSO coalition on galamsey actually came out to say that NDC criminals have taken over from MPP criminals in the galamsey fight.
And so that is, well, he is a sympathizer of the New Patriotic Party and then also a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana's Political Science Department, Dr. Joshua Zato. So this is 3FM 92.7, and the issue we just treated has to do with Chairman Wontumi, the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman, who yesterday was picked up by EOCO officers, spent almost the entire night there at the premises of EOCO, and late in the night we were told that he had to be taken to the hospital because he fell ill, and a few minutes ago, right before the start of this program, we were told that he had been granted bail. We are uncertain of when next he is expected to appear or how the matter concluded, but certainly it's one that is also very fluid, and we would update you subsequently when we get new perspectives to it. And those of you who've also been following, what do you make of it? How have you seen all of this play out, from his invitation to the attempted pickup from his home in Kumasi, and his call for NPPs and Ghanaians to rise up, and now his arrival in Accra? He went to the CID headquarters. After that, the second day of his appearance at the CID headquarters, when he ended his meeting, he was picked up by EOCO officials, where he spent the night. And that is the latest, or the chronology of events as they started a few days ago. So we would update you, especially on our social media handles and our website, 3news.com. To some other stories now, a proposed legal education bill will soon be laid in Parliament to break the Ghana School of Law's long-standing monopoly over professional legal training. In a recent interview, the Majority Chief Whip and South Dai Member of Parliament, Roxanne Nelson Dapamakpo, stated that the new bill will mandate all accredited law faculties in the country to be licensed not only to run academic LLB programs, but also to train lawyers professionally. Under the proposed system, bar examinations administered twice annually by the General Legal Council will serve as the single national qualifying test. Dapamakpo argued that many faculties already call themselves law schools but are unable to train lawyers due to regulatory bottlenecks. In a few minutes, we'll try and get some thoughts on this particular issue, but as it stands, what do you make of the argument made by the South Dai Member of Parliament? He has said that the new bill which is being proposed and will be sent to Parliament now that the House has resumed, that new bill will mandate all accredited law faculties in the country to be licensed not only to run the LLB programs, but also to train lawyers professionally. However, under that proposal, if you need or want to be called to the bar, you would have to administer, or you have to write 2 exams, or exams written and certified by the General Legal Council as the only clearance you will need to be called a lawyer or to practice in the country. So you need to write an exam. However, the schools that are currently running, or the faculties that are currently teaching law courses, should be giving the further power to allow students to be trained professionally, or lawyers to be trained professionally. So are you a lawyer? Do you know anybody who is? I'm sure you've heard about how tough it is to write these bar exams, etc. What do you make of this proposal that is expected to be sent to Parliament? Do let us know in in the comment section on our Facebook page, and I would put that to the rest of the world, trying to get
and case definition to all our facilities. And then they have been asked to really mount up how to really integrate infection prevention control, especially when it comes to contact with patients. So they are supposed to have the what we call the PPE, things that gloves that you are supposed to wear when you are going to touch a lesion. Make sure that you also do that. Then the normal hand hygiene that you are supposed to do when you have your 5 moments of your hand hygiene. And more importantly, in the facility, ability to isolate a place to make sure that when people have the disease, in order not for them to transmit it or spread it, we isolate them to a particular place in the facility so that we make sure that they are confirmed to have cases or not. These are cases that are easily managed in the house. And the way that you manage them in the house is not different from how we manage in the hospitals. To make sure that if these lesions are there, you give some space when you are attending to these patients. Make sure you also do your hand hygiene as and when you are supposed to do. And when we do this when we have the cases, we'll be able to pick them as early as possible. We don't transmit and we don't increase the spread too. Mortality will go down, severity will go down, and I believe that we'll come back to our normal routine. We have set a...
So that is the Ashanti Regional Health Director sharing a thought on how they are trying to keep the mpox concern under control. So let's take a step back to our earlier story. We'll come and finish. I'll give you other issues that are happening regarding health. But let's take a step back to our earlier story having to do with the new proposal of the legal education bill, which is to be laid before Parliament. Joining us on the line now is a lawyer and lecturer at the Gimpa Law School, Dr. Kweku Anane Jinde. Doc, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
What would your initial thoughts be on the proposal that proposal to reform legal education and also to decentralize the professional legal training?
Well, my first reaction is that this is the best news I've heard so far this year. Because our legal education, the way we train lawyers here, in the first place, is archaic, outmoded, and then very exclusive. So this one has come as very welcome news. I'm very excited about this proposal.
Why so? The system as we know it is that there are a number of faculties. When you go or you attend and you're done, then you write the bar exam. How different is this new proposal from the current system?
You see, the new proposal is, to my understanding, is intended to democratize legal training in this country. At the moment, if you look at the Act, the Legal Profession Act, 1960 Act 32, which was amended in 1963 by Act 116. You know, it allows the General Legal Council to regulate education, legal education in Ghana. Also to set out guidelines what we are supposed to do as far as legal training is concerned. But here's the case. You have a regulator who is also a player in the marketplace. It doesn't happen anywhere. And because of that, this regulator, who is also a player, has all over the years monopolized the professional training of lawyers in this country. That's why everything is centered around Makola. So this proposal, I believe, is what happens in other jurisdictions. Recognize organized schools like Gimpa. We can be licensed to do the professional training. Because as we speak now, Makola, they do some of their courses at Gimpa. They use our classrooms. They use our libraries. They use our lecturers. So what prevents them from licensing Gimpa to do the professional training? At the end, they all go and write one bar exam. So that if you qualify, you are called to the bar, finish.
Right.
You see, the way we are organizing legal education in this country, it has a direct effect on justice delivery in this country. Because let me tell you for a fact, we don't have enough lawyers in Ghana.
Oh,
in 2002,
Because every year when we go for the lawyers who have been called to the bar, you see them in their hundreds. So how then would you say that we don't have enough lawyers in the country?
I'll give you the facts. When the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, who was the Attorney General, he commissioned a report to do a need assessment of all government departments, MDCs, municipal assemblies, and all those. At that time, the report came out that we needed 12,000 lawyers for government departments alone. We don't have that. That is why they rely on outside lawyers. And apart from that, another example, when Brahapo was one region with 29 districts, you go to Sunyani, the lawyers at the Attorney General Department, there were 5 in charge of 29 regions. So when a police officer makes arrest at Kintampo, he prepares his case, he has to send it to Sunyani for advice. And sometimes the advice can take 8-9 months before the advice comes. But the ordinary citizen in Kintampo or Dawa or Nkranza, you know what he will say? That the police have taken money because it's delaying so much. You see, if we democratize it and we have many lawyers who go to the Attorney General Department, all these problems, not all of them, most of them will be resolved.
Okay.
So our inability to train more lawyers is really slowing down the justice delivery in this country.
Right.
I'm just giving you examples.
Absolutely.
So we need lawyers when we need lawyers and we need lawyers.
Okay.
At the time this report was commissioned, the population of Ghana was around 24, 23 million. Today we are more than 30 million. So the need for legal services have increased.
Right.
If you go to Upper West, you can't find more than 7 lawyers serving a population of about 2 million.
Wow, that's
go to Upper, so
that's quite
there's
surprising.
a need for more training of lawyers.
And briefly, before you take leave of us, there is a concern about quality. I mean, you make a strong argument that we need to democratize the legal training system. But the concern, again, which has also been raised by a former Chief Justice, has to do with the quality of lawyers that will come out of our institutions. Is there a guarantee that if this democratization that you're calling for is giving a green light, because the bill is now going to Parliament, if it is passed, do you have the assurance that we'll get the quality of lawyers that some of you currently are now?
Well, my brother, nothing in life can be guaranteed except death and perhaps your taxes. That is why we have an examination system in place. So that if you go through GIMPA and then you are properly trained and educated, and you pass the exam, you go. So the exam is a means of ensuring quality.
Right.
So that concern to me, it's unfounded.
It's moot.
There's a system in place to test all people through an examination before they are called to the bar. So that is a system we can put in place to avoid the so-called low quality of lawyers.
Of lawyers, okay.
Counsel. Other countries have done it, but I don't think that when you go in the national court, international criminal court, the other lawyers who are from other jurisdictions doing the same thing, our lawyers are better than them. No.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kweku Ananijinde, who is a lawyer himself and a lecturer at the GIMPA Law School, for your thoughts on this subject. The proposal.
Tunes in sync with a soothing voice. 3 Lounge with AJ.
Are you tired of the same old routine? Need a break from the stress and chaos of everyday life? Well, step into the 3 Lounge, your world of absolute relaxation and great music with yours truly, AJ Akwako Sapon. Welcome to the best mid-morning show in the capital and beyond. This is 3 Lounge with yours truly, your radio princess, AJ Akwako Sapon.
Love it. I love it. It's great.
Kickstart your week with Monday motivation, shake off the Tuesday blues, and get ready for midweek mania. Take a trip down memory lane on Throwback Thursday and wrap up the week with Funky Friday with myself and Helen Appiah Ampofo. Plus, enjoy exciting celebrity interviews, insightful conversation, engaging discussions on topics that matter, and there's a boatload of fun and easy activations that reward and appreciate you, our loyal listener.
If you are listening, we're manifesting money into your pocket this morning.
Don't miss out on the excitement. Tune in to 3 Lounge every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. with AJ Akwako Sapon, only on 3FM 92.7.
It's my number one.
92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Business News on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. Coming up tonight, to those holding dollars in anticipation of return to old cedi depreciation patterns, Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama says the narrative has changed. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. In a bold declaration aimed at currency speculators and the wider investor community, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, says the cedi's recent appreciation is neither temporary nor speculative, but a reflection of real reforms and solid macroeconomic fundamentals. Addressing investors at the AFDMB annual meetings at Abidjan, Ivory Coast, Dr. Isiama reaffirmed that Ghana's currency market has entered a new era anchored by stability, backed by policy discipline, growing reserves, and improved confidence. The following 3 Business Tuesdays report has the details. The era of chronic cedi depreciation is over, and that those betting against the local currency are likely to be disappointed. Speaking at a private investor roundtable on the sidelines of the African Development Bank annual meetings, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama revealed that the cedi has depreciated by 21.5% so far this year, reversing a sharp decline of 19.2% recorded in 2024. He credited the rebound to strong foreign exchange inflows from exports, particularly gold, as well as improved reserve accumulation, a current account surplus of over $2 billion, and tighter enforcement in the forex market. In a pointed message, the governor declared, to those holding dollars in anticipation of a return to old patterns of depreciation, I will say this plainly: the market has changed, the narrative has changed, and the policy environment has changed. Dr. Isiama also highlighted the role of the Gold for Reserves program and emphasized that the Bank of Ghana will continue to defend currency stability through transparent, data-driven policies. And that was a 3 Business Tuesdays report on the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama declaring end to an era of chronic cedi depreciation. Now, Ghana's service producer price inflation rate saw a decrease in April 2025, falling to 5.9%. This marks a 1.3 percentage point reduction from the 7.2% recorded in March 2025, indicating a slowdown in the year-on-year increase of prices received by service producers. Month on month, the service producer price inflation increased by 0.9% between March and April 2025, meaning that on average, producers earned slightly more for their services in April compared to the previous month. A closer look at the sub-sectors reveals varied performances. Accommodation and food service activities, along with transportation and storage, continued to show strong performance. Within the transportation sector, land transport recorded a producer inflation rate of 21.7% in April 2025. Air transport saw a significant increase of 7.4 percentage points, reaching 22.1% from March 2025. Postal and courier activities, however, maintained an unchanged inflation rate of 8.5%. In the hospitality sector, accommodation activities experienced a producer inflation rate of 20.4% in April 2025, while food and beverage service activities increased to 21.6% from 20% in March 2025. Within information and communications, programming and broadcasting activities registered the highest inflation at 20.8% in April 2025, followed by publishing activities at 4.6%. The inflation rate in telecommunication activities remained stable in April 2025. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, has directed the ECG to deploy 200 new transformers across major urban centers in a bid to strengthen the national power distribution network. The move follows weeks of intermittent power cuts in parts of the country and is aimed at improving infrastructure to meet growing residential and industrial demand. Speaking at the opening of the 2025 West African Mining and Power Expo, WAMPEX, in Accra, Mr. Jinapor said the deployment is part of a broader strategy to enhance electricity delivery and ensure greater reliability. He stressed that despite recent concerns, Ghana's overall power supply remains stable, even as the country continues to export electricity to neighboring countries.
Power generation has been very stable, and we've even begun exporting some power. What we need to do is to continue to improve the transmission network and the distribution network. The reforms we are putting in place within ECG is beginning to yield results, and we'll continue to innovate, we'll continue to bring about efficiency at the distribution level. Initiatives are not isolated. They form part of an integrated vision to ensure that energy becomes a strategic enabler of industrial transformation. The conversations we hold here at WAMPEX must translate into partnership, investment, and innovation. Let us work together to power prosperity for our minds, our industries, and more importantly, our people. Ghana stands ready to lead, collaborate, and deliver. I wish you.
And that was the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor. Now, the Director of the Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISEP, Professor Peter Korte, has cautioned the government against over-reliance on gold exports for revenue mobilization, citing the dangers of unpredictable fluctuations in global gold prices. With gold exports accounting for 56% of Ghana's total exports as of May 2025, he recommends diversifying revenue streams through value addition in the agricultural sector. This call was made at the Graphic EcoBank Business Forum in Accra.
We ought to raise more revenue, but by also saving, because it's not just raising revenue, but if you raise revenue and spend beyond how much you raise, then you leave the gap for debt financing, and that is what we want to avoid. Gradually reduce the deficits, and even if we can even have a surplus, the better. That we need to do. Then also diversifying our economy. Gold exports accounts for about 50-something% of our export revenue. It means we are relying so much on gold. What happens if commodity prices change? What happens if gold prices fall on the international market? It means we are going to have challenges with our export revenue, and it will have implications on our exchange rate. So let's be resilient. Let's promote agriculture, value addition, make agri more modernized, and supporting the value chain.
You heard Director of the Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Korte, ending the Business News on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Bill Ishan is here with sports. Please stay.
Ghana. It's a new
Evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Now, the match awaited Ghana versus Nigeria friendly in London will take place tonight at the G-Tech Stadium in a few minutes' time. And the Black Stars will be facing arch rivals Nigeria for the hope of reaching the final of the Unity Cup tournament. Now, the winner of this tie will face Jamaica, who beat Trinidad and Tobago by 3-2 yesterday. Head coach of the Super Eagles, Eric Shell, has been talking about using this competition to fine-tune his squad for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers in September.
We have a lot of players in Nigeria, so we need to give a chance to the lot of players they can show us their quality. So it's difficult to me to talk about other things about the pitch, you know. So I can tell you something. We are focused. We have a game project. We want to build a group. We want to create an identity. With the game project, with the plan project, so we need to put in this team some player who can learn quickly this game project. So Unity Cup is a great moment to try some player, to try some other systems, to be ready in September. So this is just my feeling and my vision now.
That was the head coach of the Nigerian national team, Eric Shaw. Now, here are the lineups for the game. For Team Ghana, Benjamin Asari starts in goal. We have Gideon Mensah, Stefan Ambrosius, Aaron Esel, and Mahmoudou Kamaradini in defense with Razak Simpson as well. We have Abdul Salih Samed, Majid Ashimeri in midfield, and then Christopher Bontuba, Jordan Ayew, and Kwame Opoku in attack. So these are the squad for Ghana. And for Nigeria, we have Nwabali in goal, Ismaila Ndidi Igo, Ajayi Onyeka, Deses Chukwueze, Daniel Onyemachi, and Alimi are in the lineup for Team Nigeria. And also we will be giving you live text commentary later tonight on 3FM, live radio commentary on 3FM. So do stay tuned for the latest from the Unity Cup match against between Ghana and Nigeria as well. Now to the Conference League, Chelsea take on Real Betis in the final of the competition at 7 p.m. tonight with a historic achievement in sight for the Blues. Now, if they win, they become the first team to win the Champions League, the Europa League, and also the UEFA Conference League. Now, Enzo Maresca, the head coach of Chelsea, has been speaking ahead of this game.
Much better. I said a few times during the season that for me was already a good season for different reasons and can become a very good season if we finish top 4, top 5, and if we are able to win the final tomorrow. The first target is there. We achieved that last Sunday, and hopefully we can achieve tomorrow the second one.
That was Enzo Maresca, the head coach of Chelsea. Meanwhile, Real Betis manager Manuel Pellegrini is not convinced that his team's 2 extra days will give them a significant advantage over Chelsea in the upcoming match.
I agree absolutely with him. Not because with Betis against Chelsea, I think that in football you cannot give any advantage to your rival. Of course, they had a difficult game on Sunday that they must qualify for the Champions League. They did it, so I'm very happy for him. But it will not be an excuse because you need to play 3 days after that game. And during the whole season, you always have to play especially when you play Champions League or European games, to play Thursday and Sunday, Wednesday or Saturday. So I am absolutely sure that Chelsea will be recuperated in what they did on Sunday, and will be tomorrow a difficult team with 1 or 2 days less of rest, but will be exactly the same difficult team.
That was Manuel Pellegrini, the coach of Real Betis. Now, Manchester United head coach Ruben Amorim believes it will do his players good to leave Kuala Lumpur with the sound of boos ringing in their ears after a 1-0 loss to ASEAN All Stars. Now, after ending a desperate Premier League campaign with a victory over Aston Villa on Sunday, they flew 6,600 miles to Malaysia only to find some more trouble, losing by 1-0 to the ASEAN All Stars.
Feel always guilty. I said that in the last game. I'm always guilty of the performance of the team, no matter what. And since I'm here in the first day, I am guilty. Then the boost from the fans, I think it's something that we need, maybe, because every game that we lost in the Premier League, they were always there. So it's like the way of playing. If they see that it is not working, they will change the way they behave. It's going to be the same. These people believe in Manchester United no matter what the context. It's our job, it's our duty to improve the team and to improve the next season. So.
That was Ruben Amorim, the head coach of Manchester United. Before we go, let's do some tennis, where defending champion Carlos Alcaraz overcame a blip in form to beat Fabian Maruzian to reach the French Open third round, but two-time finalist Casper Ruud is out. Now, the Spaniard Alcaraz started strongly but dropped the second set before recovering to wrap up a 6-1, 4-6, 6-1, 6-2 win over his Hungarian opponents. But there was no such fortune for 7-seed Ruud, as the Norwegian became the second top 10 player to exit early following a 2-6, 6-4, 6-1, 6-0 defeat by Portugal's Nuno Borges. Now, victory was Alcaraz's 17th in 18 matches on clay this year, as he looks to become the first man since compatriot Rafael Nadal in 2020 to retain the Roland Garros title. And also do remember again that Ghana versus Nigeria will be here, live commentary on 3FM, and so do tune in to 3FM for the live commentary and all the updates with regards to the Unity Cup game between Ghana and Nigeria. Bringing an end to sports here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Bill Lishen. We have the rest of the team on standby with more here on Hot Edition.
Still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition, live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda, Accra. Just gone by was the latest in the world of business and sports. Before we go, though, Ghana is battling a new wave of drug abuse, one more dangerous and deeply rooted than ever before. The crisis surrounding the opioid known as Red 225 is spreading fast, devastating lives and communities across the country. In a hard-hitting new documentary, Hooked on Red, we uncover the disturbing rise in the sale and abuse of this powerful substance, now easily accessible even in Ghana's most remote areas. The documentary airs tonight on TV3 at 9 p.m. and will be streamed live across all social media platforms. So here is more like a teaser of what to expect when the documentary rolls later this evening.
So we want to stop the medicine. And we go take gun or go rob no. Daytime.
It was meant to heal, but on the streets, red